Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. Today I've got something super special for you, a hilarious full-length comedy story about the strangest prankster you'll ever meet. Mr. Noodleman, get ready for a wild ride full of jokes, crazy details, and ridiculous pranks that will make you laugh non-stop. So grab your snacks, sit back, and let's dive straight into this chaotic adventure. In the noisy little town of Giggleton lived a man so peculiar that even the pigeons avoided landing near him. His name was Bartholomew Noodleman, but the world simply knew him as Mr. Noodleman, the strangest prankster that had ever been cursed, or blessed, to walk on two legs. Mr. Noodleman was not an evil man. He never wanted to hurt anybody, but he had one mission in life: to make every single day absurd, chaotic, and ridiculously funny. To him, seriousness was a disease, boredom was a crime, and laughter was the cure. From the moment he opened his eyes in the morning until he collapsed into bed at night, his brain was on fire with stupid ideas. People said he had a screw loose. Others said he had no screws at all, just a brain full of whoopee cushions and rubber chickens. Whatever the truth was, Noodleman had a talent for turning ordinary situations into disasters that made the entire town either laugh until they cried or cry until they laughed. Every morning began with his symphony of alarms. Not one, not two, but 12 alarm clocks scattered around his messy apartment. One shouted like a drill sergeant, "Wake up, maggot!" Another blared opera music so loud that passing cars slowed down. The worst one was shaped like a goat and actually screamed, "Bah!" until someone threw it across the room. His neighbor, poor Mrs. Crumblebottom, hated him with the passion of 1,000 suns. Every day she screamed through the wall, "Noodleman, you buffoon. Some of us enjoy sleeping." And every day Noodleman shouted back, "Sleep is just practice for the afterlife, darling. Rise and shine." Then he'd open his window, release a handful of glitter into the wind, and start his day with a grin that made people nervous. Going grocery shopping with Noodleman was like attending a circus. He strutted into the store in outfits that nobody sane would wear. One day, he came dressed as a pirate, complete with a parrot on his shoulder, except the parrot was just a hairdryer he painted green. He pushed his shopping cart like it was a race car, making screeching noises around every corner.
He walked up to strangers holding a cucumber like a microphone, asking them, "Sir, can you explain why bananas are curved? The public demands answers."
Some laughed, some ignored him, and one old man chased him down aisle 4 with a baguette like it was a sword. By the end of his shopping trip, Noodleman had a cart full of completely useless items. 17 cans of whipped cream, a watermelon wearing sunglasses, and one suspiciously expensive cheese he claimed was for science.
Cashier, do you want a bag? Noodleman, no thank you, I'll juggle them home.
One fell, rolled under a shelf, and to this day, no one has found it. Public transport was another playground for him. Noodleman didn't just ride the bus, oh no. He turned it into a stage. He'd step onto the bus carrying a large briefcase. Everyone assumed it was full of something important, but then he would open it dramatically to reveal nothing but a single sandwich.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's performance is brought to you by bread, cheese, and mystery meat.
Once he wore a horse mask and neighed every time the bus stopped.
Another time, he pretended to be a tour guide, pointing at random people and saying, "On your left, you will see the majestic Gary, who hasn't paid for his haircut since 2002.
Nobody knew who Gary was, but everyone clapped anyway. His pranks around town were legendary. He once filled the mayor's fountain with bubble bath soap. By noon, the entire square looked like a foam party in Ibiza. Children dove into the bubbles, dogs rolled in it, and the mayor was found yelling, "This is a government structure, not a jacuzzi." Another time, he secretly replaced all the "Caution wet floor" signs in the supermarket with signs that read, "Caution, angry goose ahead." People walked nervously, looking around for geese that didn't exist. The security guard was so confused, he called animal control. Noodleman loved costumes. He owned hundreds.
One day, he wore a full astronaut suit to the library. Shh. I'm on a mission to the moon of silence. Another time, he dressed as a doctor and walked into a bakery, holding a stethoscope against the bread, declaring, "This loaf is dead. I'm calling it."
The baker chased him out with a rolling pin. On Halloween, he once showed up dressed as himself, but with a name tag that read, "Definitely not Noodleman." Nobody was fooled. Of course, his greatest joy came from pranking his neighbors. He once installed a speaker in the apartment hallway that played random animal noises at night. One evening, it was cows. The next evening, it was dolphins. And one time, it was the sound of a rooster every 10 minutes until sunrise. Mrs. Crumblebottom nearly lost her mind. Another time, he glued googly eyes on every single object in the building's laundry room. The washing machines, the detergent bottles, even the floor mop. Residents reported feeling watched while folding their socks. But the most infamous prank was the elevator opera. Based in Minor, Noodleman hired two of his friends to dress as opera singers. Whenever someone got into the elevator, the doors would close and the singers would burst out dramatically. "Welcome to your destiny!" The terrified residents tried to get off at the next floor, but the singers followed them out, still singing. The landlord banned Noodleman from using the elevator for 6 months. He responded by installing a slide made of cardboard boxes down the stairwell. At the coffee shop, he ordered drinks under fake names just to confuse the barista. One day, he said his name was Your Majesty. So when the drink was ready, the barista had to shout, "Latte for Your Majesty!" Everyone bowed. Another time, he claimed his name was the Chosen One. The poor barista shouted, "Frappuccino for the Chosen One!" And half the customers gasped dramatically. He also liked to pay for his coffee using pocketfuls of coins, buttons, and once, Monopoly money. Somehow the barista still smiled at him. His workplace, when he had one, and which wasn't often, couldn't handle him either. At one office job, he replaced all the pens with crayons. At another, he sent daily emails written entirely in pirate language. "Ahoy mates, today's sales numbers be looking rough." The boss fired him after a week, but not before Noodleman left a final note taped to the fridge. "I may be gone, but the fish in the freezer will always remember me." Nobody knew what fish he was talking about, and nobody dared to look. Even dating was a disaster. On his first date with a woman, he showed up carrying a giant rubber duck. When she asked why, he said, "It's our chaperone." Another time, he took a girl to a fancy restaurant but brought his own ketchup bottle and poured it on everything, including dessert. Surprisingly, some women actually found him charming. "You're insane, but at least you're never boring." The townspeople often swore they hated him, but deep down they couldn't imagine life without him. His chaos was contagious. Even the grumpy ones secretly laughed when nobody was looking. Giggleton without Noodleman would be just ton, and nobody wanted that. One day, the mayor decided he'd had enough. He gathered the townspeople and declared, "This man is out of control. We must banish him." But just as the crowd started to agree, Noodleman appeared, riding a unicycle, juggling pineapples, wearing a sombrero, and singing, "Don't Stop Believin'" in opera style. The crowd burst into laughter so hard that the mayor himself fell into the fountain, still full of bubbles. From that day, it was decided. Noodleman was not a curse, but the town's official clown. He was even given a medal, though he promptly used it as a coaster for his drink. And so, life in Giggleton continued with chaos, glitter, and laughter wherever Noodleman roamed. He never became rich, he never became famous, but he became something better. The reason people smiled, even when their days were gray. For in a world where seriousness ruled and boredom was always lurking, one strange man reminded everyone that sometimes being ridiculous was the most serious thing you could do. But of course, Noodleman's chaos didn't stop with a medal. If anything, it only gave him more confidence, to try bigger, stranger, and even more absurd pranks. The day after the ceremony, he decided that the town's pigeons looked sad and underdressed. So he spent the whole night making tiny hats out of cardboard and tape. And in the morning, Giggleton woke up to find pigeons proudly strutting around the square wearing cowboy hats, crowns, and even one in a tiny Viking helmet. Tourists thought it was a festival. The mayor thought it was witchcraft. Noodleman just said, "Finally, equality in fashion." His reputation grew. People from nearby towns started visiting Giggleton, not for the landmarks, not for the food, but just to see what nonsense Noodleman would do next. He became a living attraction. Children followed him around like he was the Pied Piper of Giggles. Once, he brought a rubber chicken into the town hall meeting and used it as a gavel, shouting, "Order in the coop." Instead of being thrown out, the council actually let him finish, because somehow it was the most entertaining meeting they'd had in years. But his masterpiece prank came one sunny Saturday when he decided to fake his own alien abduction. He rigged up a giant homemade UFO out of pots, pans, Christmas lights, and an old trampoline. At midnight, he suspended it from a crane borrowed from his cousin. When the lights flashed and strange sounds blasted through speakers, the whole town gathered in horror.
I regret nothing. Take me to your leader, but please bring snacks.
People gasped, screamed, and one man fainted into a bush. The mayor prepared a statement for the newspapers about extraterrestrial contact. But of course, the wires snapped, the UFO crashed into the bakery, and Noodleman landed face first in a wedding cake. Instead of panic, the town roared with laughter. The couple getting married even said it was the best wedding gift they could have asked for. By this point, everyone realized that Noodleman was unstoppable. The police stopped trying to chase him, the mayor stopped trying to banish him, and even Mrs. Crumblebottom. Well, she still hated him, but she admitted life was less boring with that noodle-brained clown around. The truth was, behind his wild eyes and endless pranks, Noodleman understood something the rest of the world often forgot. People needed to laugh. Life was full of bills, arguments, and seriousness that sucked the joy out of every corner. But a man slipping on a banana peel while dressed as a knight? That was priceless. And Noodleman was willing to be the fool every single day if it meant others remembered how to smile. One evening, as the sun set over Giggleton, Noodleman sat on a bench eating ice cream with 3 spoons at once, because why not, and watched the townspeople passing by. They were chuckling, telling stories about his latest disaster, sharing jokes with strangers. The whole town had become infected with his silliness. Even the pigeons, still proudly wearing their ridiculous hats, seemed happier. He licked his ice cream, got brain freeze, made a face so ridiculous a baby laughed out loud and thought, mission accomplished. Mission.
And with that, Bartholomew Noodleman, the strangest prankster in history, leaned back, burped loudly enough to scare a dog, and whispered to himself, tomorrow's gonna be even weirder.
Because for Mr. Noodleman, the story never really ended. As long as there were people to prank, hats to put on pigeons, fountains to fill with bubbles, and mayors to annoy, his ridiculous adventures would continue forever. And if you ever visit Giggleton and hear someone yelling, "Attention, shoppers! There's a sale on invisible cabbage!" Don't be alarmed. It's just Noodleman, turning another ordinary day into absolute chaos. The end. And that's the end of the story of Mr. Noodleman, the weirdest, funniest man in the town of Giggleton. I hope you enjoyed all the laughter, the pranks, and the absolute nonsense as much as I did. If this story made you smile, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe for more funny content, and share it with your friends so they can laugh too. Thanks for watching, and remember, life is always better with a little bit of silliness. See you in the next video.